Hello, welcome to this Business New Zealand update for Friday the 30th of July. I'm Grant Walker, and with me, Business New Zealand CEO Kirk Hope. Big news out in the past week, of course, the confirmation of the closing of the Trans-Tasman bubble. A lot of saying the right move, and at the end of the day, something we probably had to do.
I think we absolutely had to do it. I guess a lot of businesses have been, it's quite finely balanced between the tourism sector, who I know will be disappointed in respect of the Australian market and the possibility of getting some forward bookings out of that market. But I guess if the rest of the economy was going to suffer, then it was absolutely the right thing to do. And if we had an outbreak here, we've seen what the cost of lockdown, or alert level increases. So, I think there was broad support for that. Really unfortunate. I don't really think the bubble ever really got going, to be honest. It was a bit stop-start, but hopefully once more people are vaccinated, both here and in Australia, we can get back into that mode. And also there's broader consideration going on, of course, by the government and a range of business organisations about reconnecting with the world, and that's going to be really critical once the vaccination program is rolled out.
Although a lot of people overseas are particularly saying 2023, aren't they?
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess we can't really put a date on it. I think the preconditions are going to be vaccination, and then efficacy of the vaccination, where people are coming from, and the vaccines that have been deployed in those regions, and how we might deal with those people coming across the border. There's a lot of technical information. If you think about how long it took to work through the detail of getting the Trans-Tasman bubble up and running, you've got that with a wide range of economies, a wide range of countries. And you've got to think through all of those things. So whilst it is an easy thing to say, you've got to acknowledge that it's an exceptionally hard thing to do. I know there's a lot of work going on with the businesses that are involved at the border, the likes of Air New Zealand, Auckland Airport and other airports, in conjunction with customs and the border agencies to really think about how they can work through that. But again, it's a complex piece of work. It's not going to be the same for every country, and there's a lot to get through.
All right, what does the tourism industry need now?
Well, I guess what we've probably seen with the school holidays are a lot of domestic forward bookings. I mean, I think the thing about New Zealanders not being able to travel except for, for example, to Rarotonga, is that a lot more New Zealanders are travelling around the country. So I think for that to continue is going to be important for the tourism sector to remain viable.
All right, moving on. You recently wrote an op-ed piece and stuff outlining the issues with having that closed border. Now, you did offer some solutions. I'd like to go through them if I can. There's 7 of them. Let's start with the allowing family reunifications and pathways to residency.
Yeah, well, one of the challenges that we see with particularly highly skilled migrants who are in the country, already in the country, so they were on a pathway to residence likely before COVID. With the border remaining shut, they may not have seen their families for a long period of time, and it's causing a lot of them to reconsider whether they want to stay.
Or some are anecdotally leaving already.
Yeah, and some have, as you say, some have left already. So as a matter of urgency, I think, and the government had started to reconsider the family reunification process. I think that's a really easy step for them to get through.
All right, looking at immigration in terms of workforce priorities.
Yeah, so I think it's really matching up the supply and demand in relation to what our future workforce priorities are going to be. I think we probably haven't done that particularly well in New Zealand, and immigration is one source of obviously labour supply, crudely put, and we need to think about what those future priorities are going to look like. I'll give you an example. If we've got demand for the things that we're producing in the tech sector, for example, we're going to need a lot of skills. And NZ Tech, Graham Muller and NZ Tech have done some great work on assessing what the future skill needs of the industry are. And I think it's going to be really, really important that we use that type of analysis to inform our immigration policy going forward.
Do you think the government is too reactive instead of proactive right now?
Yeah, probably a little bit, and that's a function of having a closed border, operating in a pandemic environment. And despite the fact that the New Zealand economy is going ahead. So this is a really interesting challenge that we face. We've got labour shortages and skill shortages almost
everywhere
across every industry. Yeah, it's a completely different problem that we thought we were going to have. We've got growing pains at the moment. We thought we were going to have shrinking pains. We're going to have a lot more unemployment. So the government needs to, I think, really readjust to that new reality, particularly for business. And part of the driver for writing the piece for Stuff was to outline it was actually the human cost of the border closure. That is the impact on the workforce that we have here, where we've got increasing demand, but we don't have enough people to fill that demand.
And of course, this is not only a shortage here; it's a shortage worldwide, where other countries are getting their act together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. They will be competing with us for those skills to the extent that they're able to. I mean, if you look at our economic activity, it's still far ahead of many of those other countries, but you might expect that to change with vaccination.
All right, and that sort of covers improve the capacity of essential services workforce. Keep as many businesses and workers operating as possible, reduce the number of unhelpful regulations.
Yeah, I think what we are seeking there is just, the reality is that businesses are facing a series of unfortunate situations where you've got regulations which cut across each other, which on one hand enable something and on the other hand stop something, and stop that thing that they've enabled. And I think it's just really having a lot more clarity around some of those regulatory burdens that are being imposed on business. I mean, one of the things that we talked about last week, I mean, it's probably the right thing to do in a pandemic, to increase sick leave for workers, but there is a very real cost to that. Obviously you can't encapsulate all of that in one soundbite, but the reality is there are a series of those costs that have been brought to bear on business. Labour cost is a big one.
All right, help growth industries lead to recovery, like who?
Well, I just referred to the tech sector. Yep. So there are some industry transformation plans that the government have been working on. I know that there was one for the tech sector, so that'll be important, and that'll be important to factor into how you manage things at the border, how you think about who you target to come into the country to fill some of those skills gaps and increase our capacity.
Foreign investment, re-investor category visas, matching the two.
Yeah, there's no shortage of. There was an article earlier this week about New Zealand being the most attractive place in the world for billionaires to want to park up in an apocalyptic situation.
Yeah, we're it.
Yeah, so why not take advantage of that? There's a lot of really interesting plays that are going on at the moment. For example, Microsoft are building a pretty big server bank up in Northland, or just out of Auckland, and I think there are some really good opportunities that New Zealand can take advantage of. We've just got to make sure that to talk to that regulatory point, that all of the regulatory regime points to enabling some of that activity to happen.
All right, and finally, business travel.
Yeah, well, what we've suggested there is that there's a specific channel for businesses to be able to talk to MIQ. One of the biggest frustrations that we hear is, I've got a visa, or for people coming into the country if they're critical workers, or if I'm a business traveller, I'm going out of the country but I can't get back in because I can't get an MIQ spot. So I think just a specific business channel into MIQ where there's account managers that can kind of deal with your challenges would be that would be a great leap forward in terms of the business experience of MIQ, I think.
All right. Now, finally, I want to just touch on this. The Commerce Commission's draft market study into supermarkets. Mm-hmm. It's warned about competition, and the whole sector's worth $22 billion, saying it's not working well for consumers. So your thoughts on it briefly?
Yeah, the issues have actually been well canvassed in a range of prior reviews. I think it's a draft report. There's 4 weeks worth of consultation, so there will no doubt everyone with an interest in it will want to have a say. And I know specifically that the supermarkets themselves will have a lot more to say on the issue, particularly, as I said, given the fact that a lot of the issues have been pretty well hashed through.
All right, and a final report due out in November. Kirk Hope, thanks very much.